In the past, organizations that achieved great success largely attributed strategic decision making to the superior instincts of their hubris driven leaders. These leaders were largely celebrated for having the bravery to take risks, supported by a strong belief that was mainly driven by a little more than a hunch. In fact, some of the most celebrated entrepreneur turned Fortune 500 founder CEOs seem to embody such qualities, along with the grit to persevere through the lonely seas of championing a cause no one other than yourself believes in. The never-ending era of disruption, however, has presented business with challenges where this instinctive approach and grit alone are no longer enough to endure, let alone succeed in a changing business landscape. In recent times, instinctive strategic decision-making has proven inadequate to navigate disruption, particularly for organizations that are on the receiving end of such disruption. The new normal, as some would call it, has presented a business context where successful navigation is almost impossible without the ability to define an organization's past, present, and future state within the backdrop of what has evolved from a mildly predictable business landscape to a wildly unpredictable one. The evolvement of technology in the era of the digital revolution has presented many technological advancements, with data analytics emerging as the most viable and practical solution. Through data analytics, it is now possible to not only define a company's past and present, predicting a company's future to a notable extent is now possible. This possibility exists without the limitation of having to limit the context to all things remaining equal. Internal company ecosystem functions that were previously facilitated to a large extent by people and process, and to a very small extent by technology, can now be performed by highly sophisticated, precision-driven algorithms. The people and process approach is inherently plagued by limited, unsophisticated, aged qualitative information as inputs with limited business value relative to rising complexity. Precision-driven algorithms, on the other hand, can use real-time, quantitative, user-generated data as input, offering consistent value to business, even when presented with varying levels of complexity. In earlier days, analytics came with a challenge in that organizations' internal functions delivered against needs that were largely not predetermined, to the extent that even minute changes in context could not be anticipated. Great value was placed on the fluidity of human-driven problem solving in these functions processes. What then would transpire was that, in the construction of data-driven algorithmic ecosystems that were supposed to automate or at least expedite the delivery of these functions, the blueprint of the whole initiative had to anticipate every eventual that the business may encounter. Furthermore, this blueprint had to compute every KPI the organization may need to reflect on, measure, or predict, and propose the next best action for each one of those eventualities. This scenario proved to be an uphill endeavor, embedded with high risk of failure. A requirement emerged where the desire entailed incorporating the fluidity of human-driven problem solving into analytics ecosystems. The evolvement of analytics with the aim of satisfying this requirement led to the development of what is now called AI. AI put these analytic ecosystems in a position where needs could be learned and incorporated into the delivery process, allowing the ecosystem to learn and self-improve while in use and already generating value for the organization. AI systems could now inject human-like decision processes or intelligence into problem solving. As much as analytics and AI can offer great value to an organization's strategic repertoire, the ecosystem is only as good as its defined strategic mandate, one underlined by governance, operations, and customer centricity perspectives. Data ecosystems with varying levels of complexity and sophistication can only derive value if underpinned by a well-thought-out blueprint of how this ecosystem will integrate into how the organization intends to move forward strategically. Such a blueprint cannot be defined by a group of technology practitioners in a sprint planning session. It requires a combination of deep industry expertise as well as astute business decision-making to derive. Each internal business function should be able to derive value-driving KPIs provided as key outputs of any analytics and AI intervention. Any business that cannot confidently produce such a blueprint would not be in a position to entertain group-wide expensive transformation projects. Many firms that responded to the excitement of the jargon frenzy mostly found themselves entrapped in resource-draining long-term projects that derive very little to no value. Analytics and AI should be seen as enablers of the drive towards the definition and mobilization of the future state required for an organization to compete and thrive. Data ecosystems should not be seen as replacements for the genius of the brave, hubris-driven business leader. They should be seen as elevation and de-risking mechanisms that assist and enable leaders to make more informed strategic and operational decisions, while at the same time managing the risk associated with the ever-evolving, unpredictable, digitally revolutionized, speculation-punishing business landscape.